Hello, Voices from the Bench community. Pat Kuhn from Ivoclar here. Innovation and education are inseparable partners in our profession, where continuous change offers you the opportunity to raise the bar of dental care and elevate what is clinically and technically possible. So we at Ivoclar have created Ivoclar Academy, where we support you through cutting-edge educational programs and resources. We understand that you have busy schedules and individual preferences for learning. To help leverage your time and maximize your learning experience, the Academy has educational opportunities that are easily accessible and fit any learning style. Whether you are looking for an in-person program or for virtual education, Ivoclar Academy offers multi-channel opportunities that allow you to learn at home, in the classroom, in the office, or on the go. In addition, we offer CE-accredited learning opportunities. You can receive a certificate of attendance for each CE-eligible program or training course completed from the Ivoclar Academy. Simply log on to ivoclar.com and click on the Academy link located at the top of the page to get started. Happy learning.
Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Greetings and welcome to episode 324 of Voices from the Bench. My name is Elvis.
My name is Barbara.
What's happening, Barb?
Oh, you know what's happening. You and I are going to Orlando, so we're recording this on Wednesday early.
We are totally getting this out of the way so we can enjoy ourselves as we record all weekend with our good people at Jensen Dental.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Yep.
Very much looking forward to this. Get to meet Kite. I'm pretty excited for that.
Me too. That was a great interview.
He's a really good dude. So many people reach out to us and just said it was nice to hear his story because they've taken courses with him. I always like hearing that kind of stuff.
Of course you do.
So please,
here we go.
Even though we can't talk about it yet, tune in next week as we're going to talk about all the exciting things that we do down in Florida.
Yes, sir.
Instead of just Barb talking about what she does in Florida all the time, I get to talk about what...
Well, I'll be laying out tomorrow afternoon.
There you go.
Trust me. I'm no fool. I'm getting there early.
Good for you. I know we're a little early, but on September 15th in Fort Worth, Texas...
5 days after my birthday.
Oh.
Just saying.
Duly noted. Everybody, bring treats.
That's right, Joe.
Dental technicians from all over the country are going to swim, bike, and run to raise money for the Foundation for Dental Laboratory Technology. This yearly triathlon is on its 10th year. Barb's done 8 of them?
9.
9 of them?
Ridiculous. The 1 year I was getting divorced.
Yeah.
Yay me.
But this yearly event, it does a great job raising money for education in our industry. But we need your help. So this year, Barb, you're doing the dual athlon, right?
Yeah, no frickin' swim, Elvis.
Yeah, so that's bike, and then you run, and then you bike again.
No, it's run, bike, run.
Run, bike, run.
It's 3, 15, 3.
3 mile, 15 mile, 3 mile. Yeah, that last run's going to be tough.
No.
But I, of course, am again teaming up with our good friends, Mike. So good, I don't even know his name. Mark Williamson and Bobby Kenny. We are forming again our team, the Abutments, to do the swim, the bike, and run. We do all
well
of
done,
them.
boys.
Yes. Yeah, we do not do this for our health. We do not do this for fame. And we definitely don't do it to break records or even win the race. We do it to raise money.
Yes.
So this is where all of you all come in. Head over to dentallabfoundation.org and click on the Donate Today button. Then you'll need to either log in or create an account. If you've donated before, you just log in. You select Race for the Future, which is what the triathlon we call every year, and enter the name of either Barb Warner, by all means, give props to her 9th race, or you can write in The Abutments, which again is Mark, Bobby, and I.
That's a great name, just saying.
We toyed around with a lot.
I like it.
Then you put in the amount you want to donate. No less than $1 million.
$5,000.
Okay, 5,000 is the minimum. 1 million is the maximum. And if you want to donate more, you just send that check directly to me. It's that easy. It's a great cause, doing great things in a great industry.
Right on. And thank you before you donate. Thank you.
And it won't be the last time we beg.
It'll be months.
Months and months and months. So this week, we talk all about the clinical side of full arch dentistry with two giants in the industry, Dr. Ryan Dunlop and Dr. Johnathan Abenaim. Both of them have been pivotal in teaching the industry the right way to restore immediate load full arch. Dr. Dunlop, as most of us know, runs Full Arch Masters, and Dr. Abenaim runs Excel Dental Implant Center, but both are teaching a correct and safe way to approach this growing treatment within the whole clinical staff. Now, both of them talk about how they got into teaching and what they've learned along the way, but they really talk about how they learned to customize the treatment for the patient, learning to communicate better within the team, changing the status quo of dentistry. But this is the first time that they're going to be combining forces and putting on a 2-day event that they are calling Full Arch Raw.
I love that.
I think I'm going to add echo to when I say raw.
Oh, yeah. Raw.
This unsponsored, truthful event will cover everything from the technical to the untalked about aspect of the full arch treatment plan. It's a great conversation, so please join us as we chat with Dr. Ryan Dunlop and Dr. Johnathan Abenaim. Voices from the Bench. The interview. We're super excited today to have a great conversation with two dentists that are out there teaching basically the whole industry what's up with full arch dentistry. Like to welcome to the podcast Ryan Dunlop. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Like I mentioned before we started recording, this has been a long time coming. I've had quite a few people reach out saying, we got to get this guy on the podcast.
Does that make me famous or infamous?
Wolf.
We'll decide at the end. But I know we've had a lot of technicians go through your course, the Full Arch Masters course.
Right.
All positive things. So we're excited to learn about that. But also joining you is Dr. Johnathan Abenaim. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. Happy to be here.
So I don't really know much about you as I do Dr. Dunlop, but looking into it, it looks like you're kind of doing the same thing, teaching full arch dentistry at Excel.
Yeah, doing the same thing, or Ryan's doing the same thing as me, whatever it is. Everyone came first.
Ooh, yeah.
We both know which one did, but that's all good. Yeah, absolutely. So we are basically teaching and innovating the full arch dentistry in terms of the digital world today, and we're super excited to be able to do this.
So let's get a little bit of background on both of you, on how you got into this, why you became dentists, and how you created these centers for education. So Dr. Johnathan, let's start with you.
So for me, I went to dental school, graduated in 2005, and started practicing. And I realized that the way dentistry is, designed, or the rules and the procedures that we've been going through, we've been doing, as dentists, we've just accepted what we call the status quo. And that means whether it comes from the clinical side, or the way we speak to patients, the way that we interact with our laboratory, the way that we create data or records back then. I said to myself, holy cow, if I have to do this for the next 20 or 30 years, I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
So I sort of started on this journey. It's funny. I read my mission statement when I was in dental school. They make you write it. And it's true the same that it is today. And the gist of it was I wanted to change the brand of dentistry.
Interesting. You knew that back in school?
Yeah, I knew that in dental school. I was like, this is just, how many times can you go to a party and somebody say, oh, you're a dentist? I hate dentists.
Does that actually really happen?
Oh my God, it happens all the time.
Wow, I've never heard that. That's
and that's before they started drinking. at the end of the day, in the beginning, when you're young, you think about this and you're like, well, the reason people say this is that because they just don't really understand what we do, because we are very, very poor marketers.
Yeah.
We, in general, dentists, people that become dentists are not people that are becoming MDs. They're
Hmm.
not, and I would say probably 20, 30 years ago, probably when I became a dentist, people that became dentists were not people that were becoming MDs or they were getting MBAs. They were, let's be honest, they were nerds. They were people that like to play with little things. They were
Yeah.
very
Yep.
technical. A millimeter was a mile for them,
Yep.
and our brand was horrible.
Yeah.
Obviously now it's changed completely because we're changing the brand for the good and the worst.
Hmm.
And I decided I needed to change that. So I embarked on this mission to really create this. And I would say in 2016 was when I finally unveiled it to the world in terms of what digital dentistry was. And my goal then was purely, purely, purely to create a new language between dentists, technicians, and patients. That was the goal. And I found out really, really quickly that that was not as easy as I thought it was.
I bet.
Yeah. And what I've learned is that the people, all of my lectures always start with the same slide. The mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's opened. And I would say all the dentists, all the technicians, all the treatment coordinators that have come through my training have exploded their business because you finally learn to speak the language that you're supposed to be speaking.
Can you help define that for me?
Oh, wow. So in terms of, there's a lot of languages: dentist, technician, technician, dentist, dentist, clinician, dentist, team, dentist. There's a lot of languages that you need to learn. And, it starts as little as, I always say this thing: what defines a leader? The definition of a leader is not someone who has followers, is not someone who's tall, is not someone who's strong. It's really someone who makes people feel better about themselves when they're around them.
Hmm.
Agree.
And what you realize, what you're doing, what you're supposed to be doing is you're not the main character. You're actually like my kids call it, the NPC, but you're here to serve others. The game changes. It's like your practice will explode when people feel that they're the most important person in that room, whether it's your team member, whether it's your patient, and whether it's the technician that doesn't always constantly get, just do your best. I know everything I sent you is completely wrong, but just do your best. And then when it gets messed up, what did you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bad language that we've been speaking. And when you get to change that language, it changes the game. But I can tell you, like, for me, I probably failed in changing that language in one aspect, and that's like the dentist technician. Unlike Dr. Dunlop, who employs sort of like a big team, I'm sure he'll share that with you. I don't work with a technician per se because I wasn't able to solve that language for me. And that's my own personal failure to be able to do that. So I teach dentists that would fail like me to not speak to technicians in a powerful or the correct way. So I actually am a lab technician. I do everything myself.
And when you talk about language, you don't mean terminology, do you?
No, it's talk about like being on the same wavelength. It's being
Yeah.
able to understand that, and it's not just the final product. It's that if you're a dentist that, you're very punctual, like if I tell you 8:30 in the morning, let's make sure it's done at 8:30, not the day before to say it's not ready, or not the day before that it's broken, or not the day before that the shade is wrong, or not the day before that your machine broke, or not the day before, and I could make these lists forever. And also from the dentist side, it takes two to tango. Like, don't send records that are incorrect. And I guess for me, being able to do everything on my own, it's sort of learned. I always tell my team, the best shortcut is no shortcut. Like, do it right the first time and you will get the same data every single time that's correct. You'll get the same result. It's like when dentists try and do it, this will be okay. This scan is okay. This impression is okay. This picture is okay. No, everything has to be exact. You would never want your heart surgeon to be like, I think that stitch is okay. No, that stitch better be perfectly in because my valve cannot move, and we have to start thinking that way. And, one of the things that I talk a lot about it on my course, is that I started thinking more like a doctor than a dentist. And that means that I really, my Excel process, it is accelerated, but it uses biology tremendously. And the way that we pre-process our patients, the way that we clear them for surgery, the way that we follow them through the post-op, it's not just a piece of paper anymore. There's a lot that's involved. But I'm speaking too much. I'll let Dr. Dunlop speak.
No, yeah, that's some good stuff. I love it. We do the same thing in the labs, stop, do it right. Take the time, don't push it through, make sure it's right. I love it. Dr. Dunlap, sir, let's hear
Your
the
turn.
master.
Well, I mean, Johnathan and I have almost like eerily similar stories. I graduated from dental school in 2006, started training in implantology and full arch dentistry, and quickly realized that if this was what I was faced with for the next 20 years of my career, I was not going to enjoy my profession.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to make some changes and similar timeline, starting to get frustrated around 2015, 2016. Met Johnathan at a course that I attended with him. So props to him for being, probably the earliest, if not one of the earliest pioneers in all of this. And just realized that there was two things that I needed to address in my career: my own satisfaction and my own patient outcomes. And then also, could I make an impact and change the face of dentistry from an education standpoint? So embarked upon that journey pretty much around the same time. By 2018, 2019, was really starting to embrace some of the technological advancements that had really started to affect other phases of dentistry. And that's kind of the funny joke about all of this is intraoral scanning and facial scanning, CBCT. These things are common tools to us now. Yeah. But they had more of an impact in other phases of dentistry before full arch. In fact, full arch is like the last frontier for some of these technologies. We were using intraoral scanners for crown and bridge for years before we started trying to figure them out for full arch. And
nobody wanted to trust them for full arch for a long time.
Yeah. So there was a lot of resistance and stubbornness out in the industry to accept these modalities as true and as better than our analog workflows. So, COVID came along and changed everything, and people started having more free time, and there was kind of a thirst for knowledge. And that's where I think Full Arch Masters really grabbed its footing in late 2019, early 2020. We started to host courses to just teach the workflows that I had kind of put together with different aspects of technology, and the response was overwhelming. I mean, it was just like a meteoric rise in the industry for this kind of education. And there was just not a lot of resources for people to get education and to learn how these different pieces of equipment talk to each other. And so I started to put together a team of educators and a team of people to work in my clinic, in my lab. And it became this beautiful, intricate machine of lab technicians and clinicians and chairside assistants and front office personnel and business personnel, and then, me and the clinical end. And so it was just this symphony of intelligent voices trying to change the course of full arch dentistry. And we've been very successful. We've trained thousands of people all over the globe, and the workflows work. This is the bottom line: is we can say with great confidence that digital workflow far surpasses any analog workflow in the full arch world. So to be able to say that is a tremendous accomplishment for us all. We've all really pushed ourselves to get better and to deliver higher patient outcomes. So I'm really proud of that.
So when you do the courses, do you invite the clinician along with the technician, or is it two different courses?
Oh, no, it's team training from beginning to end. Yeah, I mean, I've trained teams to be able to do this for years, and Dr. Johnathan would agree that it's not a one-person operation. It's very difficult for one person to do all aspects of this. And credit to Johnathan for being able to do all the lab procedures. And that's amazing in itself. But even he would admit this is a team approach to be able to deliver these high quality results. So my courses are focused on doctors coming with their teams and learning how to speak that same language that Johnathan was referring to. Everybody has to row in unison. Everybody has to be able to speak that same language.
I'd like to say that's a dog bark is not on my end. for once.
It's my
You're
dog.
kidding me. I thought for sure it was yours, Elvis. That's hilarious.
No, I think my pool guy's here.
Nice.
It's very interesting, like he said that in 2019, 2020 is when he, really launched this. So when in 2016, when I started this, my goal was very much so to have the technician, the doctor, and the team attend all of these courses. I was giving a course basically every month for 4 to 5 years. I wasn't home 1 week out of the month. And what I started to see was that in 2016, the technicians had what we call the scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked at digital dentistry like they looked at CEREC. So the technician will say, well, you know what? It's going to replace us. And in reality, CEREC never replaced them. So what they did was there was this massive movement to the point where very few people know this, but I actually had my life threatened if I showed up to Chicago Lab Day. Because I was the first
By
lab
technicians?
Yeah.
Wow.
By technicians. They said, you show up to Chicago Lab Day and we'll beat you up. So you better not be there. Because you have to understand, in 2016, although it's only 8 years ago, like Ryan said, intraoral scanners, facial scanners, CBCT is like, we don't even think about that anymore. But in 2016, for somebody like me to come and say, hey, we're going to use digital dentistry and there's not going to be an impression anymore, and you're going to be able to mill your stuff on your own. You no longer have to buy a $500,000 zircon zirconia machine and having to finish it on your own and have all these amazing skills to be able to do this. We're going to teach you to do this. And really my goal always was, you know what? Let dental technicians be artists. That's what they are. They shouldn't have to pour a model. They shouldn't have to worry about running some sort of machine. My goal was always that the dentist would be in charge of the manufacturing and the technician can be the artist. They can layer the porcelain, they can make the thing lifelike, they can deal with the contours and really not have to worry about if it fits or it doesn't. It's no longer their fault if it doesn't fit. If I give you a bad record, why should a dental technician be faulted for that? Why? Because they poured the model? Well, at the end of the day, they've poured billions of models. I'm sure you guys know that probably very few models are not poured correctly. Because then you're like, what is the point? So in digital dentistry, we got rid of the whole model problem. And I said, well, if I send you the data that says 1 + 1 = 2, why should you be at fault for it not to fit? So why can't we take on the manufacturing and we will send you everything to finish? And the mind was so closed then that what happened was, and I'm sure you've seen in the lab industry, a lot of labs started to close. A lot of artists said, I'm just going to get my CDL and I'm going to drive a truck because nobody will bother me and nobody will scream at me and nobody will tell me that I'm this and that. And I don't want to do this anymore. And unfortunately, a lot of artists, legit, I look at technicians as artists because it's pure art. The way that you use your paintbrush, the way that you layer the colors, the way that you deal with light translucency, the way that it's transmitted through, the way the buccal corridor blocks everything. All of this has to be taken care and needed to be done. And why should a lab technician have to have a plaster room? Why should they have to worry about their mill? Why should they have to worry about stocking the zirconia? They should just worry about their paintbrush being ready to create artistry. And unfortunately, it was never taken on, which is why unlike Dr. Dunlop, I failed in a sense of being able to transmit that message to lab technicians. So based on your question, absolutely, the technician should show up to this course with their doctor, and not just the doctor and the technician. The assistant should be there, and not just the assistant, but the financial or treatment coordinator should also be there, because how can they present everything that's going on behind the scenes? That was the biggest problem. Patients say, it's just a tooth. Why are you charging so much? Well, if they realize that it's not just a tooth, it takes so much to make that one tooth correct. It took God 12 years and it didn't even last. And we're going to do it in an hour in some cases, in 8 weeks in some cases. Like, let's be honest. And that's what I say about changing the brand of dentistry, to create awareness. Social media has done that for us. We have to do it correctly, to bring awareness to how technical and how artistic what we do every single day is. It's not a joke.
How did you, well, you're a doctor, but you're also doing your own technical cases. How did you learn how to do all of that?
So that's a really unbelievable question. Like I said, in 2016, I went and I was teaching 1 week out of the month. I was out teaching, and when I was originally teaching, I was never finishing my cases. I was manufacturing them, but I never finished them because I just didn't know how to do it. In terms of learning how to manufacture, I wasn't a computer science major, but like I told you, dentists are nerds. Whether you like
Yeah.
it or not, you can slick your hair back as much as you want, create as big of a filter as you want, but you're a nerd. At the end of the day, you're a big nerd, and
I
that's
love
no
it.
problem. Elon Musk is a nerd. Bill Gates is a nerd, and that's okay. Mark Zuckerberg was a nerd. All the people that shaped the way we live today were nerds,
Yep.
and that's okay. So I learned the computer aspect of manufacturing. When it came to painting and making teeth beautiful, when my kids were super young, my wife used to tell me, "Hey, we're going to go to Color Me Mine." I said, "What's Color Me Mine?" Well, they're going to give you a dog that's made out of pottery, and you're going to paint it. And I said, "Okay, and now what?" Well, then we got to pay for to sit. We got to pay to buy the little dog, and then we got to pay for them to glaze it. So I said, so
Mm.
I'm going to sit there with 4 of my kids. It's going to cost me like almost $800, and I'm going to paint for someone else to do this. I said, well, I'm out of here. I'm going to go and I'm going to learn how to paint teeth.
Mm.
And I learned about colors and I learned about transmission and I tried. In the beginning, I just did it on like sample cases and I played and I played and I played. And now I have it down to like, like Ryan said, it's a workflow. It's almost like a recipe for me to be able
Yeah.
to just say, I know what color needs to go here. I know what shape needs to go here. I know what transitional line angle needs to be here. And at the end of the day, it's not for everyone. But that's the beauty of dentistry. We're not all the same. And Ryan is a leader and he has the ability to manage these teams and train these people under him to be able to do what his vision is. And post COVID, having a massive team is not so simple. Loyalty is not as much as it was before. So now what happens? You have nobody. You don't have a technician. You don't have an assistant. You don't have a front desk. What do? Shut down your business? How can you
Mm.
train somebody else to do what you expect them to do? So if you don't even know how to do it, that in itself is a problem. How can you criticize somebody that you don't know how to do what they're doing?
Yeah, that's a great statement. Totally agree.
You got to be
Yeah.
honest with yourself. Don't tell me to use, zirconia that's 2000 megapascals and make it look like it's Empress. It doesn't
Yeah.
work that way.
True.
You got to understand what you give and what you don't give. Don't expect me to say that, I have a substructure and then a superstructure and then it will never debond. Well, we found a way to make it not debond, but things happen.
Yeah.
You need to understand the process. When you mill titanium, it's not so simple. Like things are going to explode and things are going to be, that's why you never rush those type of cases. And if you don't understand what you are just like your patient that says, hey, it's just a tooth. Why does it cost so much? Or
Hmm.
as the doctor that says the technician, man, it just takes 2 hours to mill. Why is it taking 3 weeks to produce?
Hmm.
You got to understand the nuances so that you can not just question, but enable and help your technician. This is why it's important for them to show up to this because they need to learn the
Yeah.
language of what the dentist goes through, the language of what the technician goes through. And if they don't speak that language, they're just going to be shouting at each other. And it's not that they're saying bad words to each other. It's just he's saying I and I'm saying me.
Yep.
It's different.
Well, what about you, Ryan? You mentioned you wanted to change full arch. I imagine you had to learn a lot on your own too.
Absolutely. Similar struggles. I mean, when I started in this arena, there was really very few places to get quality education.
It was all from the implant companies, right?
Right, right. Implant companies, associations, dental labs, everybody wants to have a footprint in full arch. Full arch
Mm-hmm.
is kind of the sexiest part of dentistry. It's the most impactful on people's lives.
Yep.
It's potentially the highest revenue source per case. These are very, very attractive cases to do. They have immediate and long-term impact on people's lives. And doing this kind of work from a clinical and from a laboratory perspective kind of initiates a dopamine response in our brains. And so we're drawn to these emotional stories, right? And we're drawn towards the status and we're drawn towards the fame associated with doing these reconstructions for patients. So everybody wants to have a handle and a control factor for this. The dental implant companies want to provide you a smile in a box or something just turnkey where you're just kind of the clinician installing the implants. Don't worry, we'll take care of the rest.
Yep.
Similarly, dental labs want to control the process. Doc, just send us the CBCT and the intraoral scans and some photos. We'll make you a beautiful guide. You just put the implants in and deliver the teeth. We'll take care of the treatment plan. We'll take care of the materials. We'll take care of everything. Marketing companies now are getting more and more involved into full arch dentistry and saying, don't worry, you just show up and tell the patients what we tell you to say. We'll take care of everything else. So there's just these ladles going into the soup, and they're just taking out. And, I really believe that full arch dentistry needs to be patient oriented, and it needs to be customized to each patient. And I believe that the doctor is the center of the decision making, and he or she needs to be the leader of that team. And whether you're doing all of the aspects yourself or most of them yourself, or if you're delegating that to a team, it's the same process. It needs to be led by the person who's ultimately responsible for the outcome of that work.
And you're saying the GP, right? Not the oral surgeon.
Well, I mean, it's a fuzzy
It is fuzzy.
situation because we have GPs who are just as capable at doing the surgical aspect. And now, through training like Full Arch Masters in Excel, you have oral surgeons and periodontists who are just as capable at doing the restorative aspect
100%.
as GPs.
Yeah.
So you really don't have those borders as much anymore. What you have is a full arch doctor. You have a doctor who's either classically trained in surgery and then learned the prosthetics, or a doctor who's classically trained in prosthetics and then learned the surgery. And the most successful clinics and the most successful labs are the ones that focus on full arch as kind of its own specialty.
Mhm.
And so I think we will see this more and more and more, where doctors and lab technicians are gearing their careers to focus solely on full arch dentistry.
That's interesting.
Ryan, isn't that truly unbelievable? That I think what you're saying is that if they finally get rid of the label and just become patient focused, it doesn't matter what you are. At the end of the day, you got a license, you're a dentist, oral surgeon, periodontist, general dentist. I don't care what you are. But at the end of the day, when you make it patient focused, anybody could do this, and with the right education and the right training. Do you agree?
I completely agree. And there's a long track record of doctors coming to my courses who were, focused on one side of this. They're either focused on the prosthetic side and they want to learn surgery, or they're focused on the surgical side and they want to learn prosthetics. And those doctors do the best job. I mean, when you are only focused on one half of this coin, things can go wrong because you're not thinking about the other half. You can't plan a case from a surgical perspective without a prosthetic in mind. And likewise, you can't plan a prosthetic without a surgery in mind. So I don't see the point in keeping oil and water separate and having prosthetic guys be prosthetic guys and surgical guys be surgical guys. Full arch is its own specialty. We just haven't called it that yet.
And I'll tell you, labs are being put in the middle of these people.
Oh, absolutely. The lab is the guy that gets blamed last, right? And usually left holding the bag, which is not fair.
I can't tell you how many GPs I've worked with that want to plan a case and they don't even talk to the surgeon.
Right.
It's us, the lab, in between, having to say, this is the clearance we need, this is the bone reduction we recommend, and here's the prosthetic. And then we have to go back and forth.
Right. And lab technicians have to adapt as well. And I think that this new specialty of full arch dentistry, which is emerging, is definitely empowering technicians. And like Johnathan said, technology, in-house manufacturing, it is never, ever, ever going to replace the dental technician. In fact, the dental technicians who are adaptable and are forward thinking are going to have incredible returns on their investment to do more full arch dentistry. And there will be a renaissance period for dental technology and dental technicians if they embrace this new methodology of patient-centered care and multidisciplinary approach through surgery and prosthetics. The lab is the cornerstone of all of that and puts it into reality. We can dream it. Doctors like Johnathan and I can dream what the case is supposed to look like, but it's the dental technology and the manufacturing that makes it a reality. And the technicians can 100% flourish in that environment.
Ryan, you probably attest to this, but dentists, they sort of they're like, tell me what to do. Tell me where I buy this part. Tell me where I do this. How may I do this? So we're talking in this sort of altruistic way, but I'm just going to say it very clearly. If you're a dental technician and you're listening to this, look at your list of doctors. Take your top 1, top 2, top 3 doctors, call them, say things have to change. Let's go learn together. Let's go to this course together and let's create this new standard. If you're a periodontist, look at your referrals. Take your 2, 3 or best referrals. Go together as a team. The most successful teams are the ones that learn together. If you're just a traditional doctor and you are doing all of this stuff, don't come with just your surgeon. Don't come with just your technician. Bring the person that controls your financial destiny, your treatment coordinator. Bring them. They need to understand this. If I see a registration with just one person, I said, what, you're going to go and learn the gospel and then you're going to try and convert everybody to be able to believe what you believe? You're not going to be successful. Bring them with you. Sit with you during lunch, talk about it. At night, go out to dinner and talk about what you just learned. Talk about how you're going to implement it, because you know what? Dentists, technicians, I'm sure, are like that also. They come back to their business on Monday morning. They're all hyped up, but everybody is still on the same wavelength of not being hyped, of being with the status quo of like, well, this is the way we do things, and, Debbie Downer and blah, 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 and all this stuff that goes in your office. And then dentists, they go through this like sort of like depression to be like, I'm so excited about my profession, but nobody is there with me. I'm all alone. These are things that business owners, whether you're a dentist or not, you go through all the time. Well, I'm telling you the recipe for success. Bring these people on the journey with you. And that's not just talking to them in the morning, right? That's bringing them to what you want to implement. You need to be the leader. Bring them. You'll spend an extra, $5,000 or $10,000, but you'll get so much out of it. My goal was always like this, because I've been to so many courses and I left my family so many times on weekends to be able to learn. And my wife said to me, so what'd you learn? I'm like, nothing. I should have stayed home and watched my kids grow up. And I said that if I ever teach a course, if I ever create my institute, I will never, ever let somebody leave there with that sort of like that idea in their brain. That's why you could see even the registration that Ryan and I have, you don't just register for the course. We ask you, what do you want to learn? And we both go through that list and make sure that we have that in there. Because if everyone's coming for something different, and it's super important to be able to impart that on them, because time is the only thing you can't buy in life, right? It's the most priceless thing in the world. So if people are going to donate 16 to 20 hours to us, we don't care about the money. The 16 to 20 hours that you're donating to us, we need to make sure that we give you back what you wanted. And the only way that you're going to be successful is if you come with the people that you expect to implement this with. You cannot come alone.
So you must not talk a lot about the technical side of what's going on in your courses. Obviously, placing implants, how to do this, how to do that, but you must spend a lot of time just talking about selling the cases.
No, are you addressing me?
Both, I guess. It just seems like we're halfway through the podcast and we're not talking technical at all, and I find it fascinating.
Because you know what the thing is, at the end of the day, this is what I remember when I was an associate and I used to live in Florida. My old boss said to me, he goes, Johnathan, you could be Picasso, you could be Michelangelo, but your patient is your canvas. And if they don't allow you to paint, nobody will ever know. So yes, the technical aspect, Ryan and I can teach it to you because we have it down to a legit recipe to make it super easy for you to implement. That's the easy part. The easy part is to jump out of your box of, yeah, but my patients, my area is different. Humans are the same. They're difficult. They're impossible. They don't value what you do. But I will teach you to change their mind to do that so that whatever I teach you technically, you will learn. So absolutely not. Our course is not about just the psychological aspect of how to get patients to move forward. We teach technical. You'll walk out of there, you'll know how to do these things. And I'm very in depth. I'm sure Ryan is also at every single aspect, design, manufacturing, and acquisition. All of that stuff is extremely important, and we go into it tremendously. I just think that unless you ask a specific question, hey, how do you do this? I'm really not going to be able to answer that, just because I want people to understand that dentists spend so much time on CE, on the technical aspect of dentistry. And then they go back and they cannot implement it. A, because they don't know how to answer the phone. B, they don't know how to market themselves. C, they don't have the correct team that's going to level them up to where they want to be. It's a different mindset. To be a full arch doctor, it's a completely different mindset, the way that you run your practice. You cannot run it as a GP practice. It just doesn't work that way.
So when you guys do these courses for these teams, is it just one course or is it a series of courses and then you stay connected to them and enable them to ask questions back and forth and to continue to build those skills for them?
Yeah, well, let me respond to that. So
Yeah.
that question is super important because a lot of people take courses at a certain point in time in their career, and the same information will have a drastically different impact on you depending on what stage of your career you're at. I have the benefit of teaching people at all different, points in their career, just starting out, in the middle of their career, actually, in the last third of their career. And it's amazing to see how this information affects people differently. And so it is a continuum. I always tell people at my courses, and we'll say it at this course, Full Arch Raw, this is a journey. This is not a point in time. This is either the beginning, the middle, or the end of your journey, but it's a journey and you have to walk that path. And it does, in order to walk that path, you have to have technical ability, you have to have surgical ability, you have to have marketing ability, and you have to have that kind of unknown ability, something that I call the X factor. It's very commonly talked about. You have to have the ability to connect with people, and you have to have the ability to convey and communicate effectively. And so, yes, we will talk about technical aspects. We will talk about design and manufacturing. But if you're going to be successful in Full Arch, it is a continuum. And so I do keep in contact with all of my alumni and, provide additional training as needed, kind of be a sounding board for people who are struggling and trying to find their way after taking one of my courses. And that's really, I think, why Johnathan and I decided to kind of unite and try to work together and collaborate on this Full Arch Raw event is, he's got a tremendous following. I have a big following as well. And, we have these two camps that have pretty much been doing the same thing. Obviously, the recipes are different, the details are different, but the overall meal is the same, right? We're cooking the same type of food, but we have a different approach.
Yep.
And, I tell a story in some of my classes about when the time that my family and I went to eat at a restaurant in Las Vegas. We planned a trip to go to Las Vegas, and we went to Gordon Ramsay's restaurant right outside Caesar's Palace.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in, we were so excited. We sat down, we ordered the food. It was one of the best meals ever. We had a great time. And I'm looking at this meal and I'm like, this is all the same stuff that I can cook in my kitchen, right? But why does it taste so much better here? Like, why am I enjoying this meal so much more than I would at a Denny's? It's the same basic ingredients, but there's clearly a difference in how it's prepared and how it's put together, and then how it's presented and how you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's really the experience for the patients as well. It's just titanium and zirconia. There's nothing magic about what we do, but it's how you put it together for your patients and how the labs can put it together for their doctors that make it so incredible of an experience. And so you have to know how to put that together as a Gordon Ramsay meal rather than just a meal at Denny's.
Well said.
That's really what I think we're going to try and achieve, is to give people the ability to connect with their patients and connect with their doctors and provide that Gordon Ramsay experience so that people will pay $25 or $30 for a hamburger, right? It's really just a hamburger, but it's so different when it's presented in a fluid and, very, very polished manner. And that's what I think is so important for success.
And you're not just talking about the presentation of the prosthetic. I mean,
No.
You're talking the whole experience from the minute the patient walks in and talks about it to when they're finished completely.
Exactly. I want patients to be able to say, that was an incredible, fun, polished experience. And that is the best marketing that any of us can do. And that trickles all the way back to lab. It trickles all the way back to marketing. It trickles back to everything. If a patient can say, wow, that was a phenomenal experience, I'm going to tell everybody I know about that. That's more valuable than any marketing company or any implant company or any dental lab, anything that anybody can ever give you. That is going to propel your career more than anything else.
But has anyone ever walked out of oral surgery saying that was fun? I mean, can you
Believe
even
it or
do
not, I
that?
mean, I've had patients say that, especially
That's
if they were sedated and they didn't. They weren't
Sedated. So I had a question. So the Full Arch Raw, can you guys speak to me on how to collaborate together and like what you're going to be teaching and how do you come together between the two of you to present this kind of education? Super interesting to me.
I've known Ryan since I met him at one of my courses in Las Vegas, and Ryan has probably, out of all of my students, has taken the small information that was in its infancy then and really taken it and run and create these massive education. And what happens is that in dentistry, there's probably nobody that's ever actually collaborated the way we're going to be doing this. So,
Hmm.
what happens is some people like me, some people hate me, some people like Ryan, some people hate Ryan. And that's just the way humanity is. But at the end of the day, like Ryan said, we all want the product at the end. The thing is that some people learn one way, some people learn another way. And one of the things that Ryan and I discussed is that, how many full arches can we finally do? It's at the end of the day, like, okay, we did them. There's so many that we've done. And how can we make an impact on the world of dentistry that will go beyond how many arches we've done? And we felt that if we have the ability to be raw, as the name of the course is, and just be
Hmm.
truthful with people. Yeah, things are hard, but we're going to teach you how to get through it. Yeah, a patient's going to say this to you. How do you get through it? Yes, you're going to have this. How do you get through that? Yes, there are complications. How do you push through it? And by having my experience and his experience together on stage, and it's not going to be that, he's going to speak, I'm going to sit down, and we're both going to be on stage at the same time. And it's going to be interactive, respectful, and most importantly, it's going to be a lot of information that we have in our heads that we're going to disseminate to the people. And it allows them to learn sort of like two courses in one, but more importantly, maybe 30 courses in one, because nobody's doing digital implant dentistry from A to Z the way that we're teaching it. It just doesn't exist. Everybody is taking little pieces of our slides that they may have been to our course and they try to regurgitate it
Yeah.
and create their own course. And whenever I go and I see these, I say, somebody goes, "Well, I just found this new thing." And I said, well, we spoke about this 10 years ago and we're so beyond this. And that's one of the things, like, I have like almost 7 or 8 patents in digital dentistry for things that I've invented that allow us to do these things in the correct manner, in a manner that allows dentists to be successful over and over and over. And I get to share that, and Ryan gets to share a lot of the way he does things, the way that he looks at things. And it's like you get to see two different points of views. We're going to be discussing cases together. Like, we're going to take a case from A to Z, the way that I see it and the way that he sees it and what he would do. And at the end of the day, no matter what he did and no matter what I did, the result should be exactly the same. It doesn't matter how you get there. It's like you have to get there, but you have to get there efficiently. And in terms of patients saying, wow, that was great, let's be serious. Of course, they don't love what we do for them. But at the end of the day, it's a necessary evil that they have to get through. Now, how can I make them go through this efficiently and not lock them into this world of dentistry for the next 6 months or 2 years that we've been doing? Dentists for
Hmm.
years, I'm going to do this trying, I'm going to solder, I'm going to cut, I'm going to try, I'm going to numb you 15,000 times. And every single time there's another error that I introduce, but I'm not going to tell you that. It's just going to tell you that FedEx lost it or the technician messed up. I'm the hero.
Yeah.
And that's not,
Yep.
dentistry doesn't work that. Those people are being exposed very, very quickly. And I can tell you that if you don't embrace this, you are going to be doing single. If you're an implantologist, you're going to be doing single implants because no one's going to see you, and you're going to have to. The single implants are going to turn into the single crowns. That's what it's going to be, and you're going to have to work really, 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 really hard to try and be successful. But most importantly, I think one of the things Ryan missed on is that at the end of the day, yes, the patient has an amazing experience. But do you know what it means for a doctor, like that dopamine release that he talked about, when you were able to see that patient so distraught when you first met them, lack of confidence, lack of the way they walk and speak and act, and you literally changed their life, whether you did the whole thing from A to Z or you quarterbacked it. Everybody celebrates with the quarterback. Though you still need a wide receiver, you still need a running back, you still need an offensive lineman. You need all these people to be able to do this. But when you're able to celebrate with your patient at the end of the day that you got them from being afraid, from not going to the dentist, from being constantly in pain, from hiding the way they look, right? from not being
Mhm.
able to order the food that they want. But when you're able to be part of that authentically, not smile in a box, like Ryan said, and you're like a mechanic that throws screws in people's heads. When you authentically are part of this and you designed it for them and you are part, you feel amazing. It's never about the money. When somebody says to me at the end of the day, thank you, I don't care what they paid. That's when I know I won.
Yeah.
That I won. I did everything I promised. Because being authentic to people, and Ryan and I, when we talked about going and doing this together, is there's no sponsors for this. There's no corporate sponsors. It's about being. That's our method. Our message is to be authentic.
Hmm.
You know, like if you messed up, be authentic about it. Let me teach you how to fix it. It's okay. It's an art and a science. Things are not going to be exactly the way it's supposed to be. We can control the variables as much as we want, but you need to be authentic about life and about what you do every single day and understand, you're not the problem. The patient comes with the problem. You're just part of the solution. And that's what we hope to impart for 2 days to whoever comes and sits and donates those 20 hours to us. I don't know if Ryan, you want to add something?
Yeah, I do, because it's easy to sit here and talk about optimism and brotherly love and sisterhood and collaboration, but the reality of this is that there's a darker side to full arch dentistry that not a lot of people are talking about. And the darker side is that things aren't done kind of, I don't want to say correctly, but if things aren't done appropriately for your patients, there can be serious short-term and long-term ramifications. And in traditional dentistry, if you screw up on a crown, what's the worst thing that happens? You remake the crown. Maybe the patient needs a root canal and crown, so you bail
Yeah.
yourself out by giving them a free root canal or whatever. If you're taking somebody's entire dentition out and their alveolar bone and you're installing titanium, there's no going back, and there's no undoing that.
Mm.
And we are transitioning from kind of a doctor, lab technician, patient oriented environment to an economy driven environment in full arch. And companies are seeing the potential revenue source here, and they are definitely moving in a way to capitalize on this marketplace. And so I have seen a tremendous shift from optimism to pessimism in full arch dentistry. And I see a lot of cases that are woefully mismanaged from a lab perspective, from a clinical perspective, from a treatment planning perspective. And there is a dark period for full arch that is coming. And I think anybody who's been in this long enough will agree with that. There's cases being overtreated, there's cases being undertreated, there's cases being mistreated. They do have very serious long-term complications, and that can turn into litigation. It can turn into board complaints. It can turn into bad reputations. There's a whole host of things that need to be discussed and addressed in our industry. And even in the last 6 months, I've had 3 or 4 alumni in my program reach out. They're at their wits' end. They're bankrupt. They're depressed. They're addicted to drugs. I've had a couple of doctors actually take their own lives. Lab
Wow.
technicians who have lost their businesses,
Yeah.
people who have lost their licenses. This is no joke. And people who are kind of pushing the envelope of what should and can be done without the proper mentorship and without the proper guidance, it can have very, very serious ramifications. So I see this as an opportunity to put 2 really seasoned, experienced clinicians who have a solid foundation in laboratory technology and solid foundation in branding and marketing and frankly in business savvy, to put us on a stage for 2 days. And, Johnathan and I are colleagues and we have a mutual respect, but we have not always seen eye to eye. We have not always been friendly to each other. We have had our disagreements. We have had our
Yeah.
shouting matches. And, by and large, we are seen as rivals. This idea that everybody's in competition with each other is absolute hogwash. Like, I don't compete with Johnathan. Johnathan doesn't compete with me. Labs don't compete with each other. We are all competing with our own ability to provide better care and to overcome the obstacles that hold patients back from seeking that care. My philosophy has always been in collaboration and promoting the better good of all of this, because not to be a doom and gloom guy, but there is a dark period of full arch dentistry that is coming, and it's somewhat argued that it's already here. And the revision market is going to be surging, and the litigation market is going to be surging. And if you're not prepared and you're not really educated on how to do these cases appropriately, you can lose it all. I'm not just speaking, in abstracts here. I know doctors and the technicians that have lost it all. This market will chew you up. And so we want to provide an event for people to lay a foundation that they can really build on. And that's the point of Full Arch Raw.
And when you're up there and you're speaking, do you go through the what not to do's to help to teach
Absolutely.
them?
That's what not to do is probably more important than what to do.
Yeah.
Right. From a litigious standpoint, making errors and making mistakes can have very, very serious complications and ramifications for our patients. And that is really the backbone of what we're going to be teaching, is how to avoid and manage those types of serious complications, from not only from a clinical, but from a technology and a laboratory perspective as well.
Yeah.
So this is good for clinicians, technicians, I mean, the whole team, just as you were mentioning with your own individual courses.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ryan, I know Johnathan mentioned that you've been to his course. Johnathan, have you been to Ryan's course?
He will now.
There's always a first for everything.
Right. Maybe there'll be some surprises around the corner at the Full Arch Raw course. You never know.
Right.
How do you guys prepare for this? Like, I'm sure you're meeting a lot, sharing information. Like, it's a 2-day course together. Like, what's that look like?
So it looks like, basically, I would say on a daily basis, I communicate with Ryan. Ryan communicates with me. We constantly update the syllabus about what we want to impart. At the end of the month, we're going to meet in person. And a lot of what we do to show for the preparation of this, we're going to be sharing this all on social media to be able to see this, to see what it is that goes into this. It's not like, oh, we just decided we're going to do this course. Like I told you, I'm very authentic about when I put things together. And I've told Ryan this a million times. If I can't do it right, I'm not going to do it at all. And this involves like making sure that remember, we only have 20 hours. And I'm sure when Ryan gives his course, he has 20 hours to himself.
Yeah.
We're going to share those hours together, but we're really going to people are going to be like, you may have to take a week off before you come to this, because you are going to learn so much, and it may reinforce what you're already doing. And that's also great. It may challenge you in terms of what you are doing. And more importantly, it may open your mind to be like, wow, I can really add this, and this could really be beneficial to my practice. And that could be as simple as, say, my module on how to deal with presenting treatment with patients and how to deal with objections. It could be as simple as Ryan's module of how to put everything together. It could be as simple as my module of complications. You're like, oh my God, I had that complication. How do I do that? Like a patient comes in and their bite is completely off. What do you do now? Because it's easy when everything goes together. I have this very famous saying that says, full arch dentistry, it's nuts and bolts. To put one thing together. What differentiates you as a great clinician is the ability to pivot when things don't go right.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. So I'm going to show you cases of where everything is done right, the surgery is done right, and these are my own cases. And something goes off that I didn't catch. Now, what do you do? Because what happens is that dentists will say, well, I learned full arch dentistry. I don't need to come to this. Well, great. Like you guys asked, what happens after the fact? Well, I can teach you A, B, C, D, and E, and F, and whatever. But if you skip one of the letters and you didn't realize that you skipped it, the data is not going to be where it needs to be, and you're not going to get the result that you want. So now what?
Yeah.
How do you fix it without disrupting your patient's life? How do you fix it right then and there in under 60 minutes? How do you fix a bite that's completely off? How do you fix a smile that's completely off? How do you fix a fit that doesn't fit? How do you fix tissue that's resorbed too much? How do you fix all of these things on the spot? And that's, I think, for me, will probably be the biggest takeaway, because a lot of people, it's different than when I started in 2016, when I had to tell a person what an intraoral scanner was and what a scan body was.
Yeah.
People had no clue. They had no clue. They didn't know what material it should be, what size it should be, what color it should be. They didn't know anything. So in this case, like, we're going to be teaching this stuff that it's not so elementary, but more important, it's going to be like probably like high school, and to be like, okay, well, 1 + 1 is 2. But how do you make it better? What happens when the calculator battery is dead? Do you know how to do 1 + 1 on paper by yourself? And that's really, at least for me, the message that I'm going to be passing about, and I'm sure Ryan's going to be the same based on the way our syllabus is written, is what do you do when things don't go right? Well, I'll teach you how to make it right. It's pretty easy. That's super easy. But now I got to teach you how to fix it also.
So do you both recommend that somebody comes to this course that's done a few, or it's okay if they haven't done any?
It will be for everybody. And like Ryan says, he has a whole continuum. I don't want to steal the stage, but just to finish off, like, I had to work a case with the lab technician, and lab technician sent me everything back and it didn't fit. And I said to him, it doesn't fit. And he said to me, well, it's the design. I didn't do the design. And because I am a lab technician myself, I said, no, it's not the design. It's because you made this and this mistake. He said, no, I didn't. So I said, no problem. Let me do it. And I did it on my own, and everything fit without changing the data, just understanding how to put everything together. So even people that are seasoned, because things are changing, you need to be able to get to where you need to be without having to change everything. You got to use what you have and understanding why things don't fit. That I think is the most important thing. That's what changes everything.
So this Full Arch Raw, August 8th and the 9th in Miami, Florida. I love the fact that you guys have fullarchraw.com. Super easy for people to find it. The syllabus is up now. It's jam-packed. It's 8 to 6.
Yeah.
Nonstop. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a fire hose of information.
It will be. I mean, we have to boil this down to its nitty gritty, most important parts in order to fit everything in 2 days. I teach courses that are 4 days. Johnathan probably teaches courses that are 4 or 5 days as well. So it's going to be a fire hose. Come ready, come with an open mind, and you're going to learn something. There's no doubt about it. Even people who have taken our courses before are signing up to come back and get a refresh or to learn what's new. Johnathan and I are always on the cutting edge and testing things and developing things that very few people are using. So you're going to learn something no matter who you are. If you're a newbie and you're right out of school and you want to learn how, this is done, or if you're a seasoned professional and you've been doing it one way forever, but you just have a feeling like there's something better out there, this is the place to be. We chose Miami because it's going to be hot. It's going to be raw. It's going to be unfiltered. It's going to be unsponsored. We are free to say whatever we want and to give the God's honest truth on how to be successful in this increasingly dangerous environment.
Sounds amazing.
Last question. Could a technician go by themselves?
Absolutely. We already have technicians signed up by themselves. Yeah.
Good. Because you mentioned a lot of the whole teamwork and everybody coming involved. But I mean, there's a lot of labs out there that we work with so many dentists and so many oral surgeons. We need to know how to pivot when things go wrong.
Absolutely. Lab technicians would benefit incredibly from this course if they're working in the Full Arch marketplace. Doctors are going to be coming asking for certain technologies. One of the big buzzwords recent times is this whole direct connection. Dr. Johnathan has the Powerball screw. I use a different version of that, but they all work. And if, as a lab, if you're being asked to do something that you're not familiar with, you're going to lose clients, right? So
yeah,
if you're not up to date on the latest and greatest technology and the laboratory workflows to be able to deliver products that doctors are asking for specifically, then you're not going to be successful. You're going to fall the way of the dodo. So lab technicians are highly encouraged. We already have a bunch of them signed up for the course.
Awesome. Gentlemen, thank you so much. That was a fascinating hour, and I'm super stoked for this Full Arch Raw. I can't wait to see what comes out of it. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be the first of many.
Yeah, great.
Unless you guys don't want to do it twice. Thank you, gentlemen, and we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
A huge thanks to Dr. Dunlop and Dr. Abenaim for coming on our podcast to talk about something you both are obviously extremely passionate about. More and more clinicians and labs are getting into doing full arch restorations, and many are doing it without the proper training to handle situations when they happen. So, sure, it's one thing when everything goes right, but are you prepared when they don't?
That's a bad day.
Yeah, that's a really bad day. Not great.
Not good.
So maybe you should really check out Full Arch Raw. It's happening August 8th and 9th in Miami. Hello, Miami, Florida. Not a bad gig. Head over to fullarchraw.com to see the syllabus and to register, guys. Let's go. Head on over. They're uniting. It's amazing.
They just posted online the venue they got, and it's a sweet setup. It's like nice cushioned seats, white glove catering, big screen. I mean, it looks like a great venue.
Well, it's August. Maybe you and I should venture there.
Maybe we should.
It's a drive for me, Elvis.
Yeah, not so much of a drive for me.
All right. Well, I'll see you in a day.
Absolutely. I'll see you in Florida. Everyone else, we'll talk to you next week. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a good week. Cuppy.
What do you want, huh? The views and opinions expressed on the Voices from the Bench podcast are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the host or Voices from the Bench, LLC.